Hello! In today's video, we'll show you how to wire up a Nortel Meridian 6x16 KSU. This system is actually temporarily mounted on the wall just for this demonstration. I do not have enough bench space. The phones we'll be using with it, we'll be using two 7208s just for general purpose. These are M7208s. Well, I have a beige one here and I have a charcoal one somewhere in the lab. Really just gotta look around. It's in here somewhere. But for programming, I'm gonna use a T7316E, just because that's the only two-line phone I have out here at the moment. Oh, here it is. Here's the 7208. I have an M7208, so this will be the other phone. This one's setting up higher because it's actually in wall mount configuration right now. But, yeah. I've never used this phone, actually. This phone came from Graham Middle School. So, yeah. We'll show you how to wire them up to a 66 block. How to wire incoming trunks. Yeah. So, please stay tuned. First, we're going to go over and, we're going to do an overview of the interior of the Norstar 6x16. Now, on the front panel here, you have your trunks in this side. You've got your Amphenol male connector there for your sets, paging, and whatnot. Your emergency phone line connection, and your programming cartridge. So, you can run you have 6 trunks here. You can run them all along the sides here and around the bottom, and all your cables exit here. There's a slit in the cover. They exit here, and you got a nice little spot to run a zip tie. So we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll go ahead and connect up a 66 block and an Amphenol cable. So I've now got a 66 block here that already has pre-punched down 25 pair cable with a female Amphenol connector on one end. It's actually a very long cable, so I have the rest of it off screen. So what we're going to do is spread apart this Velcro here and plug in the Amphenol connector. This is really hard to do with one hand. Simply just plug it in, just like that. Make sure it's nice and tight in there. Now we'll pull across this piece of Velcro, and then we'll pull this across the other end, and it'll hold it snugly in there. And now like I said, we could run a zip tie right through there to hold the cables down, but we do not need to do that for this. And we'll get back to connecting trunks here in just a moment. But here is our here's our 66 block with our 25 pair on it. And in the next clip we will connect up both of the digital stations, and we'll also connect up the trunk. Okay. In front of me is a punch-down tool blade. And here is a punch-down tool. Okay? Now, what a punch-down tool allows you to do is to punch down wires onto a punch-down block. A lot of uses of the word punch down. Words punch down. Now, this particular one has a blade and a spare different type of blade for a different type of punch-down block. We'll be using the one labeled 66 for a 66 style block, if it will just focus. No, it won't. Okay. Another tool we will be using is lineman scissors. These are the best. This is the best tool you will literally ever use, I promise you. Like, even if you don't even do telecom or IT work, buy you a pair. For any sort of solid core, low voltage wire, freaking the best. Okay? They're just great. Even for some thinner stranded core, they're really good for cutting. Really good for cutting really anything. They're just the best scissors I've ever owned. Another thing, or a type of disposable we will be using, is bridge clips. Now, that is so washed out. There are 2 main types of bridge clips you will see. This kind, which is just this kind, but with a plastic housing over top. So, these simply bridge together the 2 sides of a 66 block. Now, from an electrical standpoint, a 66 block has 4 connections per row. Okay, so it has 4 columns, 50 rows. Now, these 2 columns are connected across in a row on both sides. So you have electrically, these 2 are connected together and these 2 are connected together, and it repeats on every single row. So, if we connect our stations to this half, then there is no continuity between these 2, meaning we need to add a bridge clip to connect them together. This allows you to easily take a station out of service, or whatever you really need to do. If you're taking trunks out of service, you can disconnect them there. So, we will punch down our cable, which we'll be using. I'm just going to use a standard RJ11 to RJ11 phone cable that I'm going to cut in half, and we'll punch it down here. And then we'll stick a bridge clip on, and hopefully this station will turn. Okay, I know you can barely see this, but this is the Norstar 616 or 6x16 wiring. It's very simple. Going from top to bottom in pairs, you have stations 21 through 36, then nothing, the external paging audio, paging contact closure for if you were to have a paging amplifier connected, auxiliary ringer contacts, and music on hold input. So, it's very simple. Here is the top, the bottom of the block. And we're going to take a punch down tool. It'll focus. We're going to take a punch down tool and punch down our stations here, and then we're going to put a bridge clip. So let us get a RJ11 cable for connecting the stations and a couple bridge clips, and we'll punch them down. Okay, so I've got one of my cables here that has been stripped back to expose the 2 inner wires, and we're going to feed them through the 66 block like so. And now we're going to pull them over top and through each terminal here, and prepare for our punch down tool. So if I can get a close up on that, I don't know if it'll focus. But there's our cable, goes in the side, and is ready on both terminals. So now, I'll take my punch down tool, and I'm going to use the cutting tip, and I'm going to now punch down and cut this wire. Let me see if I can zoom in on it. And now, our cable has been punched down, and I'll repeat this action on the other side. Always make sure that your cutting head is facing in the right direction. Now, let me zoom in here on, if you can see there, what happens is that the wire gets shoved down in between the legs of those terminals and then squeezed together by the punch down tool, which breaks through the insulation and crimps onto the inner conductors of the cable. We now have an RJ11 connection, which we can now feed into our telephone. So I'll take the handset off. We'll flip it over. On the back of these 7208s, we can plug in our set here. And we can actually feed the cable up through the stand. Actually, before I do this, let me tell you a secret, a hidden use of these stands, which I didn't actually find out about until I seen one in use. I've never seen it mentioned. It's probably in the user manual of these. There we go. On the back, if yours is lucky enough to have one, you will have this gray piece right here, which will pull off if you try hard enough. And this is actually meant for if you are mounting the phone on the wall. If you mount it on the wall, the handset will easily pop off, okay? There's nothing to hold the handset on. So, this piece is designed to go right here. Where's it? There it is. Go just like that and help support the handset, so if it were on the wall, the handset wouldn't fall out as easily. Much nicer than Cisco's design, which is to have this little lip here. So when you normally have it, it is like this, where the phone just kind of rests in the cradle and there's no hook on it, it just rests in there, versus the design where there's actually a hook. Flip this over, so that way your handset is hooked in. I actually prefer that design over anything else, so I don't really know why that's an optional. I think that should be standard to have a hook instead of a cradle. But anyways, so we can now feed our wire or our phone cable into the back here, if it'll feed through, and this just makes it a lot nicer, so you're not always, it's not sitting on it, and it's not being difficult and making it very hard to lay flat against the table. Okay, so now our set is ready, and we'll take a bridge clip and plug it in, and the set should start booting. Okay, so I now have two phone sets connected. I have the 7208 and the 7316E. I will actually show programming in another video, but for now I'll go ahead and make a simple voice call in between these two phones. So we're going to pick up an intercom line. Sorry, these line buttons do not correspond to this system because I don't know how their configuration was before. These sets came from a different phone system, and so did this one. So I don't actually have the sets that went to this. Actually, I think I might have one set, but I'm actually sending that to a friend, KJ7BZC, who's actually on call with us right now. But
yeah, I was gonna say I'm on call with you.
So we'll go ahead and make an intercom call to extension 21, which is this one. Now, as you can see, it's actually got names on it. Kathy calling. Let's answer it. What? Oh, well, that's not a hands-free button, I guess. Hands-free mode isn't enabled on these phones. But, I can make a call in between them. That wasn't me. You can put it on hold. As you can see now, the line's on hold. And I'm on the call with Myra. Okay, now hands-free is working. So we'll release and hang up. Now, there is actually no line buttons. I guess you can program those. Oh. Well, that's nice. The lines in this are relay-based. So there's line 1. There's line 2. Okay. So now, we'll punch down... I'm going to punch down a couple of lines to the system over there. I actually have access to lines there. Excuse me, I got a bunch of stuff in the way, but for me to punch down the lines, I'm just gonna have to move these radios real quick, but for me to move these or attach the lines, normally in a real installation you would have a demarcation 66 block, which would be used for, well, demarc, but as you can see, usually they would have a cover over top, an orange cover. Usually, not always. So, but usually your lines would go into a demarcation point where your lines would come into the building. So, we're going to act like that's the demarcation point, and we'll punch these down in a minute. Now we're going to punch down the lines, and I've got lines 1 and 2 connected. Line 1 is the orange pair, line 2 is the blue pair, and it comes through this cable. We'll punch them down here on the block. I always like cutting off and having fresh connections when I'm using with old cables, so let me just chop off those end pieces. Grab a punch down tool, and we flip the blade on it. And now I'm going to go ahead and punch it down. So like I said, the orange pair on my setup is the first line, and the blue pair is the second line. Simply just gonna punch it down. There we go. I'm gonna do the same for the second line here. Pull it through the guide, the wire guides. Now, rule of thumb with a punch-down tool is that the more brightly colored side usually is the side with the cutter, with the blade. This side actually has a picture of a scissors on it to indicate that this is the side of the tool that has the blade. So you always want to know which side your blade is on, because you don't want to punch down something and then find out that you actually just cut off your wire, because sometimes you're working in tight tolerances. Now, if you're if you've got multiple 66 blocks, you would use general cross-connect wire to cross-connect to your house wiring. But we don't need to in this case. Now, I'm actually going to grab a couple more bridge clips. You should really buy them in bulk, because that is just the best way to do it. I grabbed a couple. I got a couple of the fancy bridge clips. You could also buy the single wire bridge clips, but these will work fine. So we'll plug those in. Now we have two telephone lines on a Nortel 6x16. As you can see, we have busy line indicators. We actually have a busy line field here because I'm guessing this is showing the other person. So I'm going to try dialing out. Let's see if they have pull style enabled. Oops.
Advertisements can boost your business. Call 304-451-7071 for more information. Thank you for calling Telex Telecommunications Master Clock.
The current time is 12:51 a.m. Temperature 31 degrees Fahrenheit. Thank you for calling.
It's cold outside. Let's actually try dialing into the other Nortel system. This is actually on line 1, so it's going to ring. But we're not. And you can see it says Hi Smart Labs, which is my caller ID name. I can answer. Hello.
Hello.
And I can put it on hold.
For over 40 years, Kindred at Home clinicians.
Now ignore that. I actually got this this other Nortel, which is a BCM50 PBX, from another place, and I'm still setting it up. I don't have the hold music changed yet. But this is actually using analog DID trunking, or a form of it. And I actually have call logging, so I can do 812. And as you can see, we have a call. This is still on hold. So. Huh. All of these line buttons are accurate. You got hands-free. You got intercom. Speed dial. Conference. Except for page is actually line 4. So yeah. What? That's weird. But yeah. So this system works, and I'll make a video on programming. So